Episode number 150 with Andrew Pieper. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
And this is Doomsday Snyderman.
How you doing, Mikey?
Same old, Steve.
Yes. This week we got Andrew Pieper on with us. He's a live cash game grinder and an online grinder, and he's very Carlos-esque. He lives out of a Prius, and he basically runs the gambit in Vegas and plays live and online in his on his computer. He was an interesting guest. He was. I knew he would be good when I met him last year. Well, I guess this year at the WSOP, and this was a fun one. And real smart too.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, he's got some interesting stories to tell too, and we learn about a pretty awful thing happened to him recently, and he seems to be have his head on pretty good about it. So
I think that's going to be devastating. I mean, he just got wiped out, but I'm not going to spoil it. But I would like to think that I would have as good of an attitude as he did after that. But I don't know that I would. He's got a good head on his shoulders.
Well, quickly, Steve, before we get on it, anything new with you here? Dating life, fires.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. The first girlfriend I ever had, and the first boyfriend that she ever had, we were each other's first. She was probably 12, and I was 14. We were going together until I was probably, 16 or 17, and she was, what would that make her, 14 or 15? And then we broke up. She went to a different school. We went our separate ways, and we're kind of both going through the same thing. She just went through a divorce, or she's going through a divorce, and I'm just about wrapping mine up. And she's on a road trip, and she's out here in California for a month or so, and we've been hanging out and having fun. She's up in Buellton right now, staying at a friend's house, and it's about maybe an hour and a half away, and we met halfway in Buellton or in Goleta. Went and saw a movie. We both like Star Wars, and hung out at the beach for a little bit. Had a picnic. It's pretty cool. It's fun dating again, and the fact that the two of us, we're each other's first, and now we're.
They say you never forget your first, Steve.
You don't, no. I mean,
love.
We were never, we were just kids, so we never really took it very far. But it's pretty cool. It's I like it.
Well, Steve, how'd you? If she moved away from, you didn't even go to finish school together. How did you reconnect via Facebook like fairly recently, or?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. She messaged me on Facebook, and I check my Facebook not nearly as often as I should, but she texted something to the effect of like, it was after the Vegas shooting, and she was asking about my brother, and was he there, and this and that, and I remember telling the story about my buddy, the fireman that was, anyways, she texted me about that, and then I gave her a call, and we just started talking, and we've been talking.
But she texted you. I mean, how did you? I mean, how long have you actually had her phone number? But even though you haven't seen her for a very long time, right? Or no?
I had her phone number probably. I haven't seen her, like physically seen her, in probably 20 years before this. But we had each other. I had her cell phone. For some reason, I don't remember what it was. I don't remember. I think it was during Hurricane Katrina, because her and her, she lived out in New Orleans, and she got wiped out by Hurricane Katrina. So me and some of my friends and my folks, we got together a little care package for her and sent it out to her. And I think I got her phone number from that. So that was, I don't remember when Hurricane Katrina was, but long time ago. And I guess I just had it on my phone, and it got transferred from each one up to then. And anyways, I gave her a call, and we've been talking almost every day. And it's, I don't know what'll come of it, but it's, right
But
now.
she's just visiting out here. She doesn't live in California right now?
No. She's just on a road trip. She went by and visited with her parents, and then visited all her old friends out, because she grew up out in California like I did. And so she's visiting a bunch of friends out here.
What does she do for a living?
She's kind of an artist. She does like kind of paintings and stuff, and just real creative, and puts her stuff up in a gallery and like that. Kind of a hippie. I'm a bit of a hippie, but she's definitely more of one than I am. But yeah, it's been fun for both of us, and yeah, I dig it. She's a
cool.
Fun girl. How about you? How's your dad doing?
Yeah, he's doing better. Hopefully today, he's getting more lucid, and
okay.
Yeah, things are looking better, I guess is all I can say. He got out of intensive care, so that's the important thing.
Good.
Baby steps here.
Yeah. Are you back in Florida yet, or are you still here in
No, I'm going down. My sister was down there for a week, and my brother's there for a week, and then I'm arriving right the day my brother leaves. So basically, there's one of us there.
Okay, good.
At all time, but not at the same time. Kind of was the plan here.
Okay.
Take some of the load off my mother too.
Yeah. Good.
But
right
yeah, that's about it, Steve. Let's get on with this interview here.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, one other thing I got to say, Poker Mania. Those of you that signed up, I appreciate it, and it was fun. But the owner, his name is Scotter, he gave me a call, and he called me, I think yesterday or the day before. And anyways, if you guys have tried to log on, I know there's about 2 dozen of you guys that signed up through my link and got your rake back. The government shut his site down, and his lawyers, we talked for a while, and he said his lawyers are working on it, and he seems pretty optimistic that he'll get it back up and running. He'll be able to get our money back within, he said, about 2 to 3 weeks. He said they're working around the clock there, and I know the other employees there, and they're basically living there. And so, I apologize to you guys for getting you there, and then the damn site shuts down. But I believe he'll be back up. I mean, Greg Raymer is. He's a part of it as well, and I've got $1,000 on there, and I'm not worried about it. I met Scotter, I met the owner, and he seems like a businessman, and he is just a real go-getter, and I think that this is just a roadblock, and I believe the site will be back up and running. But if you guys have tried to log in and it just takes you to an error page. That's why. And, I'm kind of looking at it, I got $1,000 on there, and I'm kind of looking at it. Bitcoin has, been kind of stabilizing, if not dropping a little bit as of late. So I'm looking at it like this is hedging my bet. You got to put money on there with Bitcoin, and, maybe this is kind of leveling the playing field.
Why did he say the government shut him down? I'm confused.
Yeah, he said something about the government shutting him down, and his lawyers are working on it, and he's optimistic about it getting back up and running. But in the meantime, all his people are working on getting everyone's money back and like that. So.
Well, I'm a deeply cynical man, Steve. I won't say anything, but you actually talk to him and know more about it. So let's just hope that. But I would feel bad if people listening to the show put some coin on there and don't get it back. But we'll see.
We'll see. I'm honestly not worried about it. I almost told him just keep it on there, and then when the site gets back up, I don't have to worry about transferring it over. And then I thought, well, what the hell? I'll put it back and I'll just throw it into a few Litecoin or something. Oh, I bought 2 Litecoin, by the way, and I bought half of an Ethereum, so I put about another $1,000 on there. in Coinbase. So I'm optimistic about that. We'll see how that goes. But yeah.
We'll see here. But
anyways.
Oh,
Well,
okay,
should we get to the
Stevie.
interview?
Yes, definitely.
All right, brother. And without further ado, here is Andrew Pieper.
I got supersonic speed that I used to run to you. I stretch my arms for miles and miles.
Andrew Pieper, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this interview, Steve.
Yes, I know.
This is a good one. We got someone interesting. Let's see how you can fuck this up and bore everyone to tears.
Andrew, meet my partner on the podcast, Mike.
Hi, Andrew. Mike. Hey, Mike.
I'm his better half. Well, you and I met at the TPE meetup at this last year's WSOP, and you really impressed me because you were saying that you moved out to Vegas and you just you're just going for it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the just take my shot in Vegas, and I won a decent tournament on Ignition on a 50K that ended up being like 100K back in December of last year, and then my buddy was moving out to Vegas in January and needed a roommate, and I was like, hey, let's give this a shot. So
let's do this. And are you still living? You remind me a lot of Carlos Welch.
Right.
Yes, and I know you know him.
I got to say, when I saw one of the Poker News article, I'm sure Steve, you'll put a link in the show notes there.
Yeah.
It's described as homeless poker player, and I'm kind of like imagining some woman I'd never met on the street coming up and say, "Call me mom, please." I'm like, hold on, there's only one mom. I feel like there's only one homeless poker player. You can't really appropriate that. But I mean, if you don't have a home, that's homeless.
Are you still doing that, Andrew? Or are you still living out of your car?
Yes, yeah, I still am doing that.
Okay, your 2004 Toyota Prius.
Right. Yep. Still humming along.
How many miles do you have on it?
It's 160,000 now.
Okay. I've got a 01 Civic, and I've got right around there. I think it's like 10,000 more, but I got 3 more years on the car. Now, you during the summer, you're able to keep that thing on at night with the AC running, and since it's a Prius and it's half electric and half gas, right? It's only a few bucks to run it all night.
Right. It only costs about $3 a day or so. If it's because it only kicks on about like for a minute and a half every half hour, and then it shuts off, and then the hybrid battery takes over until it depletes itself and the engine recharges it again.
Wow,
that's a pretty big factor in making this work, I would think. I've asked Carlos about that. I mean, it's just too hot in the summer, and of course during the summer, Carlos has so many friends in Vegas who are offering him a place to stay. Maybe it's less of an issue, but it's also cold in the winter there, right?
Yeah, it does get cold here. Not in like freezing. I mean, it can get freezing here, but so far it's been like in the 40s and 30s and stuff. And it's actually not that bad, really. And it's actually cut my, I guess you'd call it utilities, in half. because if you're not running heat or AC as often, then the battery doesn't go down as quickly. So some nights if I don't have to charge anything, I just leave the car off and it's fine.
That's cool. And did you get these ideas from Carlos? But you're kind of doing the same thing. I mean, like you got a little cooler. You can get ice at any Motel 6 has an ice machine right there. Like you're doing the laundromat, and the other thing too is the gym. It like you said in your article, it kind of forces you to go into the gym because you got to use it to take a shower, and you just pay one monthly membership, and you have gyms throughout the city, and you get in there, and it kind of forces you to do a workout.
Yeah, that's definitely a big motivating factor. It's like, well, do you want to change clothes? And I guess I should go to the gym. So.
Time to get on the treadmill. That's cool. One thing that was interesting, and I didn't know this when we met, but you were at once into aviation. You were going to school to be an airplane mechanic.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm a pilot. I love flying. I love planes. It's fun to me. I think I kind of look at it more as like a utilitarian, more of like pragmatic sense. Going to Vegas is only 2 hours instead of it could be 6 or it could be 9 depending on traffic.
Yeah.
And it's really not that much more expensive to fly than it is to drive, and the convenience factor and time alone makes it very nice. But did you ever get into flying, or were you strictly with working on planes, or what did you study?
Yeah, I studied mostly just the mechanic side of it. I was interested in flying. I did like flight simulator as a kid and stuff, and put a lot of simulator hours in. That's something that I'd probably want to do somewhere down the road, is to get my pilot's license. I only have like a dozen hours or so. It's not very many. But yeah, it's my grandfather was a jet engine engineer for GE, and so the aviation world always kind of fascinated me, and was sort of into that from a young age.
That's cool. I never really got into the mechanics side of it. I worked on cars and rebuilt a couple engines with my dad, like small block Chevys and stuff when I was a kid. So I understand the mechanics of it, and like that. It's kind of, I had a Volkswagen too, and so some of these, I've got a little Cessna, and the motor looks identical almost, with the
Sure.
yeah, and yeah, flying's fun. It's interesting to me, and there's so much, like, just the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. I mean, there's so much to it, weather patterns, and it's just different air spaces and who to talk to on the radio, and it's just very challenging, and it encompasses so many different aspects of life. It's fun. I dig it. I'll be flying till the day I die.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty fascinating, interesting industry with quite a few aspects of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So back to the just trying to figure out your days here. I mean, are you now, because you don't have a place to like maybe crash and watch a movie and do some of the other kind of things we do to, hangout stuff, are you like grinding like 70 hours a week kind of guy? And not that I look down upon that. There's times where I just don't know what to do with myself. So all waking hours. I've had weeks where I've probably played 70 hours of poker.
Yeah. I've had those weeks for sure, but not. I wouldn't say this is a normal pattern for me. There's just a lot of stuff to do in Vegas. I really enjoy. Like, not a lot of people realize the outdoor factor that you have in Vegas, and there's places like Red Rock Canyon and Mount Charleston, which has like 10,000 feet elevation, and the Colorado River, and there's like quite a few things outside of the strip that you can do. And so I'm stay pretty active, not just at the gym, but like with hiking, part of a few hiking groups, and usually do that 2 or 3 times a week, and go to the river sometimes. And then, yeah, like I have the setup I have in my Prius, I haven't like retrofitted it or anything to like make major modifications to it, but like I have a self-inflating air mat and stuff, and the seats fold down flat, and so I can lay out fully in that. And then usually in most of the parking garages here, I can get Wi-Fi from the casino, which is a pretty big perk. And so
Sure.
it's actually not that uncomfortable to just chill in your car.
I
So
assume
you
you've
can play
established.
online from your car.
Yes. Yeah.
I assume you've established Vegas residence here, so you don't have to pay parking at these places, right?
Right. That they actually just changed that like a few weeks ago, where you now have to be a platinum member or better. I am just because of poker, but yeah, Carlos was complaining about that on Twitter. I saw, because he the only reason he got a Nevada ID was specifically for that factor. Then like a week later they changed it.
Oh yeah, that would piss me off.
It would be too.
Okay, well that's good that you have some. I was already cynically like, okay, in the car, then he's probably just grinding. And I was going to ask if you had any hobbies. I was expecting you to say like, well, meth is good. So it's good you got something else cooking there. What games? It sounds like you play like a lot of 1, 2, and 2, 3. I mean, I know You said you can even make a livable hourly at 1.2. I was surprised to hear you say that in the one piece you wrote. Is that still possible?
Yes, definitely. I think so. I mean, one of the big perks about Vegas is the game selection that it offers. So, like when I first got here, my first couple months were really kind of break even, and I wasn't really sure why. Just because I was used to going to a casino and putting in a session and then going home, and so that's what I would do. I'd go to Caesars or I'd go to Flamingo and play my 8 hours or whatever, and then go home, and that wouldn't necessarily always be a good game. And so after that, I started realizing and looking at my results, I was like, man, I just need to start looking for better games. And so there's been nights where I've definitely been casino hopping and been to 6 or 7 rooms before I finally find a good game that I want. And so
it's that important.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd probably say there's probably recreational players. You could probably take 2 recreational players of basic of the same skill level, and one will probably be a losing player, and one will probably be break even or slightly winning player, just because of the type of games they sit in. The rake and everything affects you so much that it's pretty vital to sit.
What's the biggest? What's the buy-ins for 1.2? Can you get a couple hundred? I mean, I think at my casino it's only $60. I want to say maybe I never played it, so I don't know. But
yeah, so they have 1.2 and 1.3, and they have a couple 2-3 games where they offer double tier credits for you. But yeah, the typical is 100 to 300.
Okay.
That's most places. At the Win, it's a little deeper stacked. It's 1.3. It's 500 cap. Golden Knights uncapped, and then there's a couple other places that are have some slightly lower, higher, but most places are 100 min, 300 max.
Do you play the 500 one quite a bit, just because you can get deeper with people that aren't very good?
Yeah, that's usually a pretty decent game, and the Win is one of the nicest. It's probably the nicest poker room in Vegas, and then it's one of the nicest hotels as well. So if the games are good there, then they're usually really good, because there's not, if you're staying there, you have money to spend. So yes. Those can be definitely some good games for sure. One of my friends, Kyle Lohman, he was on Thinking Poker a while back. He has a pretty crazy story of he had ended up having a six-figure roll and was playing in Ivy's room, and then lost everything, and then moved back with his parents, and then got a little bit of roll, and then moved back out to Vegas and was grinding 1.3, and he pretty much just exclusively grinded the 1.3 there at the 500 game at the Win, and he had just he was obviously a really good player, but he had a $45 hourly at 1.3 in that game. So
that's pretty good. That's actually I got to listen to that interview. That sounds interesting. Most players would not have the ego health where they could do that. Go from the high limits to the low limits.
Yeah,
so that's a pretty good good story for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with your because your living expenses are so low, and it sounds like you grind a bit. Are you saving money, I hope, or what's your plan with that? You got a box at Bank of America, or?
I've just been putting money away mostly. I actually had a pretty terrible thing happen to me last month. I was everything was going really great for me, and I was mostly just did weekly deposits into my bank, and I did an interview with I talked to Daniel Granu my third back early in the spring this year, and just met him at a charity tournament that he was hosting, and there was only I think 40 people showed up to it. So there wasn't that many people there, and we both busted after it, and he was just standing around. So I just started talking to him, and he was a really cool guy. And I asked him what kind of advice he had for a guy like me coming out and grinding low stakes. And he said living expenses are one of the biggest factors that you can cut down on. And he said he knows some guys that are probably some of the best players in the game, but then they have to buy $30,000 watches, and you're never going to move up if you keep buying all this stupid stuff. So yeah, that definitely resonated with me. I don't know if he had living out of your car as the meaning for that, but I kind of took it
Sure.
to that's the road I went with it. And so I've been saving a lot of money lately, and then came out to Vegas with around like 20K or so, and then had doubled that, more than doubled that to like around 60K, and then paid off some hospital debts that I had from a motorcycle accident and stuff. So I had so I was doing like quite well. And then I went to Punta Cana in, let's see, when was that? August, I think.
Oh, nice. Did you win a seat there, or did you just go?
I actually won a free roll seat, basically, like this pro.
That's cool.
Yeah, like this pro. He has like over 1 million in he has like over 1 million in Hendon Mob and stuff. He won a seat, and then he was like, I don't really want to go. Like, it was a poker group on Facebook. He's like, just comment below like why you should go. And then I was like, oh well, I'll send him an email or whatever. So yeah, I sent him an email, and it wasn't even that lengthy. I just linked my vlog, and I linked my poker news articles and stuff. And he's like, oh okay. And then the next morning I woke up to the notification. He's like, oh, and he tagged me in it. He's like, hey, I chose this guy. And like he called me. He's like, yeah, I just had my birthday party like last week, and from what I hear, Punta Cana is basically a party, and I don't really want to party for another week, so I just gave the suit away instead of selling it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So I got to go to there, and a lot of my friends were there as well. Killingbird was there, and Jay Smith, and a lot of people from our Skype group that we were in. So that was pretty cool. And then lost like aces or jacks all in end of day one for like 108 big blind pot.
Ooh.
So that was kind of crushing, but Punta Cana was so great. That's what we call
a stinger.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was so that didn't feel that great, but yeah, Punta Cana was still amazing. But anyway, as soon as I got back from there, I went to Florida back to my parents' house for my friend's wedding, and then. So I was at the airport and went to go rent a car from there, and my card was declined, which was weird because it's the card that I keep all my money on pretty much, and it was only a couple $100, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Can I pay cash? It was like midnight, and I'd been traveling all day. I was like, can I pay cash? Like, oh yeah, you got insurance, you can pay cash. So just pay cash, and I was like, I'll check my account in the morning, whatever. I'm tired, so drove home, didn't think too much about it. Woke up. Checked my account in the morning, and like my account's empty, and it shouldn't be, and it was missing like $43,000.
Holy shit! Yeah,
so like I was pretty much on the phone all day and then all week with the bank and on what had happened, and basically when I first started playing online poker, before I knew about Bitcoin or PayPal or other ways to get money on these American sites, I was using Western Union to get money on and off. And so I had an account with them and had a card with them and had that information linked to my bank just to make things easier. And then, so my social security number was compromised somehow. I'm still not really sure how, but so that was compromised. And then because of that, the hackers were able to get into my online banking information, and then via that they were able to access Western Union, and then just like every day they made a transaction just under 10,000 to somewhere in India, and then pretty much emptied my account in like a matter of 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been like, and it's a pretty frustrating. It's been like a pretty big legal hassle fighting to get this back, because it's been like, so like I was out of country at the time, and I told my bank I was out of country, so there's fewer restrictions on my account because of that. It was with it was with Western Union, which pretty much has a security policy of don't send money to wrong people, and they don't really offer any guarantees on that. And then let's see, I was also using an out-of-state bank just because I got pretty good benefits with the bank that I had in Florida, and I was able to deposit via mobile. So I was using that. So yeah, it was like really frustrating. And so the bank, like initially, like after they have like 10 days to investigate your claim, then decide if they're going to open it further or not. And they decided they weren't. So then I was looking at different legal firms to try and take the case. And then like it initially sounded like I was probably going to get someone to take it, and then it was like, okay, well, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a poker player. It's like, okay, well, what's your living situation? It's like, well, I'm kind of mobile right now, and yeah, not too many conversations made it past there. If you're like using an out-of-state bank, you're a gambler in Vegas, living out of your car, like it looks kind of sketchy from a legal aspect of it. So it's yeah, it's been.
This is. I would think at the very least, you should have got a message from the bank after the first transaction that wanted to verify it.
Right.
I get those all the time, so that's where. Did you get the? You didn't get those, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Like so because I was out of state, like when I first moved to Vegas, I would get those notifications quite frequently. And so eventually I told my bank, I was like, look, I'm living out of state. Like, can you put a note on my account to where like, okay, this guy is not, no one else is using his card in Vegas. Like, and so they made a code that I was invited. So I started getting less notifications because of that, but I would still get them on my phone. Like if I went to California, or if I went, traveling otherwheres like that, but I did not have service in Punta Cana. So even though multiple notifications were sent, they
this is just
never.
This is ruined,
never
this
got
has ruined my fucking weekend, and it's only goddamn Wednesday.
Wow.
God, what an awful story, man.
Yeah, so it's
I don't know if
Mike loves
not
the
a-
pain, and so this is feeding right into that.
no, it's just horrible, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of your case. If I'm a lawyer, I don't know if I'd. That's a tough one. I mean, obviously, I don't. It's like the money's gone, and it's not like it's a company they can sue. It's just a couple individuals, right?
Right. Yeah. Like yeah. Like if you, I don't know if you remember that scene in like from like Jack Reacher where he's getting money via Western Union, and that's how he got like his pension or whatever, and they couldn't track him because it was just Western Union that he picked it up at.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I saw
But
the
yeah.
first one.
Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. That great documentary of Jack Reacher.
That was a great movie, by the way. I
well, you
watched it
sound-
half a dozen times. That's
I
fucking
mean,
brutal, dude. I
my
can't
first
believe
thought
that.
is
Yeah.
if you can
Gnarly.
endure this without going absolutely insane, then you've got the mental toughness to be a poker pro for
No
sure.
shit, man.
Yeah, so it's been like a pretty crap month, for sure. Like it's just like like after that, like I was like I had mostly all my money in my bank, which, I mean, you can argue one way or another. It's like I should have diversified, but at the same time,
usually the safest place to have
yeah,
it.
at the
Right?
same
Yeah,
time,
you
it's
think
yeah,
a bank would be
it's
sick.
a fucking
Jesus.
bank. Like,
Yeah, it's a goddamn bank. That's
You
what
had
they
one-
have them for. That's their purpose.
you had
It's
one
to keep your
job,
money
right?
safe. Oh my god.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, so like after that, like I obviously still had some cash on me. I had like a couple grand in cash, and then like a little under 1,000 online, and like that was it. Like nothing else. I own everything that I have, so I don't make payments or anything. But yeah, like that was like a pretty crushing blow to like be like really overrolled for 1-2 and 1-3 with that amount. Like I was planning starting to play 2-5 full time back in the start of January. That's when a lot of big conventions come in town. And like I started playing, I've just been playing 1-2 and 1-3, even overrolled for like quite some time, just because like, I mean, this is my first, I'm relatively new to poker, and this was my first year like giving it a go. So I wanted to like actually build up a really good sample size at 1-2 and 1-3 to like confirm like, okay, I'm actually beating this game. I'm not just running good, and to,
Yeah. What was your hourly at 1-2 1-3?
At 1-2, making around 22 an hour, and then at 1-3 it was around 28.
Okay. What about 2-3?
2-3, there's really not that. It actually doesn't run that much here in Vegas. There's only, I think, 2 casinos that even offer it. That's Rio and Harrah's offer it, but they also offer 1-3 and at the same time. It's just if you play 2-3, you get double tier credits for on total rewards. But yeah, it's not that. Yeah, so it's sort of weird that they offer 1-3 and 2-3 at the same time. But yeah, doesn't really run that much. I don't think the recreational player really makes a difference, like conscious decision between 2-3 or 1-3. But yeah, there's it's mostly like it's like pretty much all they run in California, but like in Vegas, it's mostly all 1.2 and 1.3.
Okay. And what about 2.5? How are you doing at 2.5 when you stepped up to that?
Yeah, 2.5 was around 45, so that was
Nice.
so that was decent.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, it was
for $45 an hour.
yeah, so it was all around like the solid like 9 to 10 BB an hour range.
Either way, you're probably not going to make $43,000 over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, so
It'll
Yeah,
be
it
a
was-
while.
yeah,
For
so
you.
that,
How about tournaments? Are you playing like online, WSOP.com, or I think I did see where you had the one where you mentioned it already. You had the one big online tournament score, which kind of gave you a roll.
yeah, a little bit. Not a ton. Yeah, WSOP is decent, and then yeah, still some ACR and ignition stuff occasionally, but yeah, not that much anymore. As far as like online goes, usually, I mean, like grinding, putting in a full online session in your car isn't that great, and then like Starbucks and library is okay, but then that can get old after a while. So, yeah, it hasn't been. I was playing a lot more online back when I was living with my friend in his house, but yeah, since going mobile.
Sure.
Like not, yeah, online has
Not
reduced
quite as
significantly.
not quite as easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sites do you play on?
So mostly WSOP on some of their nightly tournaments. Their nightly tournaments are okay, and then some of the special series on Ignition don't play on there too much. Some zone cache on there is mostly what I play, and then on ACR, yeah, mostly just some of their tournaments.
And the
I know you're a big Rounders fan.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Aren't we all? I love that movie.
No, I was
It's
just
my
going to say
favorite.
he said he was inspired by Mike McD, but you have a certain Canisius maturity to you here, just looking for the best games and trying to pay the bills, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think you're much more like Kanish than you are McDermott.
Kanish wouldn't live in a car, so he gets that's a romantic element right there. Now, how about getting? I know just quickly you said you became obsessed watching all the poker videos. I mean, for me, who needs to get better at poker if I want to survive? But for anyone, what do you study now? Do you have friends you just talk about hands with, or do you still watch training videos? What do you think are the best resources for getting better at poker?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like yeah, studying's still like a huge part. Yeah, so there's like several different things that I do. There's obviously some like quite a few friends that I send hands to, and we're all in a texting group or Skype group and send hands in that. And then they're pretty big podcast geek, so like listen to quite a few podcasts every week. And then as far as like training sites go, yeah, go to subscribe to Redship. Has some decent stuff for cash players. Crush Live Poker has some good stuff for live players. And then my buddy and I, we share a I don't know if we're supposed to be saying this, but yeah, we share a Run What subscription. So like that's that has some good stuff from the top guys in the game.
So what do you think over the course of the week? 10, 15 hours? Can you take an estimate or?
Yeah, I'd probably say 10 to, as far as like strict study time, probably like around 15 hours. And then passive studying like podcasts or whatever, like probably around another 5 to 10.
Okay. And how much are you playing?
Playing around really depends on the week, honestly. Like if there's big conventions and stuff in town, then that could be like a 50 to 70 hour week. And then if there's really not many games or anything going on, then maybe like 10 or 15 hours. So it's been averaging out right around between, like, I'd probably say like an average week is like 35, something like that.
Okay. All right. So between study and playing on average, it's 50 hours a week.
Yeah, around there. Yep.
And so do you play like 5-10s or do you play like 6 days a week or 4? Or like what? Does it just kind of? So you said you may go around to 6 casinos before you find a table. So that week you may only play 25 or something, or.
Yeah, it definitely varies on what games we're running at what casinos. Usually, a good barometer is just like whatever casino has the most 1-2 or 1-3 games. Usually, that's a pretty good place to go. But yeah, it's like Mondays and Tuesdays are usually some of the slower days for poker, and so usually those have been mostly my study days. There's not a lot of people in town and not a lot of games going. And then even Wednesdays to like an extent. And then like as Thursday then through Sunday, it starts to get a lot busier and more people coming into town and more stuff going on. So then, yeah, it ramps up definitely towards the weekend, definitely peaks like Friday, Saturday night. Definitely like the peak.
You still packing heat?
Yes.
What kind of gun you have?
I have a Glock 9 Gen 4.
I don't know guns, but that sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's a 9. It's just a 9mm. Yeah.
I've got a Glock 45, but you can keep more rounds, I'm sure, than mine can. What's it hold? 10? Or you're in Nevada, so you can have even more.
It holds 18.
Oh Jesus! That's 3 times the capacity of mine. I got a 45. I like it a lot. It's a subcompact. It's only got the 3.5-inch barrel, but after putting a few thousand rounds through it, I can hit a baseball from about 35 yards. It's a sweet gun. I like it. The Glocks are so nice. They have the safety built into the trigger, if you can even call it that. So,
right. Yeah. Someone to argue that they don't.
Yeah. I've read articles on people under stress when there's like a home entry, and when you have like a Kimber or one of those other guns that has the. Yeah, I love 1911s. They're really cool. But the thing I don't like about safety built into the grip, and they've found that the more safety aspects a gun has when you have to use it under stress, it's likely to, not function because you're not holding it right. If you don't, Glock, that's impossible.
If you
you
don't
just
have to
rack it and you pull the trigger. That's it.
If you don't have to go through all the security features of your own gun.
Do you have in the back of What else do you have in the back of the Prius there? You got the Chinese stars, landmines, anti-tank weapons. What do you have?
No, just a handgun and then a few pocket knives.
Hopefully you don't have to get to those. Hopefully you have 18 rounds.
Well, he already had.
If you have
he
to
already
resort
did
to
take
the pocket knife, then you're having a bad day.
Well, the Poker News article, he mentions sleeping in the car and having to pull the gun out for security reasons. So
I
should
read about that. Can you tell that story? That was pretty interesting. What was that guy doing outside of your car?
Yeah, I to this day I still have no clue. I'm still kind of mystified as to what happened. So yeah, I was the level I usually parked on at this one garage usually was pretty empty. It was a really big garage, and so usually no one parked on this level, and so it was pretty good to just park there. And so yeah, like I finished up a session at Caesars, watching my car, and then there was this other black car next to me, and I didn't really think too much about it, like someone just parked there, whatever. So got in my car, I went to sleep, and then I heard this tapping on the window like later that night, and so like first thought was someone's tapping on the window. It's probably security. So like my head up and was about to like roll the window down, and then I saw there was just like this guy in this black hoodie, and he didn't have like the yellow uniform that security people wear or anything.
Yeah, with the sew-on badge and all that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Didn't have any of that. Just this guy in this black hoodie just knocking on my side of the car, and so like I just kept my head down, and I have like pretty dark tint, not like blacked out tint, but close to it on my windows, and then I have a sunscreen up in front to black out the windshield, so it's like really dark. Like you can see it. I guess you can see inside, but like only if you like shone a flashlight and like press your face up against the glass is where you can see inside. Yeah. So usually it's but yeah, I could see clearly this guy was outside of my window. So yeah, I kind of laid down, and I wasn't really sure what he was doing, and then he kept like tapping on the windows, and then I felt my car rock back and forth, and he's going around to goes around to each of the 4 doors and is yanking on the door handles trying to open the doors.
Like
and
hard enough to shake the car? Or?
Right, yeah, shaking the car back and forth.
Wow.
And I was like, what in the world is this guy doing? So like I still laying down, like I reached underneath my front seat where I keep my gun and pulled that out. And I was just like kind of laying down with my gun, like, okay, what is this? Is he gonna break a window? Like, I don't know. So, so it goes on for like a few minutes, and then I hear the car door next to me close. I guess that was his car that had parked next to me, and I'm like, okay, good. He like gave up. He's leaving, and so I wait for him to like turn his car on and leave, and he doesn't. And so like I slowly peek my head up over, and he's just sitting there in his car, not doing anything. So like half hour goes by or so, and then he gets out of his car, and then he tries the doors again, and does the same thing, and then gets back in his car, and this goes on for like 3 hours or so. It's like early in the morning, like super early in the morning, like before 6 a.m. in the morning.
So you got a great night's sleep that night, right?
Yeah. So I'm just like, what in the? So every once in a while he like get out, yank on the doors, then get back in his car. And then eventually I guess he just said whatever, and just left, and like that was it. So that's been like the one and most bizarre circumstance of as far as like any security issues or anything that I've encountered. Other than that, like it's been really no problem. Like I haven't once had any issue with any security or anybody question me or it's anything else like that. Like that's just this one isolated incident that was some guy rocking my car trying to get in.
Right.
You know, I'm a fire captain, and I work in an area of my city that has a few people of ill repute, and what you're describing right now, the guy must have been on drugs. That's the only explanation I can think of. I see a lot of this, and that must have been it. Who else would do that unless they're high on meth to sit outside of a car and try the doors repeatedly when they already did?
Right. Yeah. And usually it's some people have like questioned like the security of living in your car, and I'm like, well, you know, like I could get like this like a $400 like cash apartment here in Vegas, but those aren't really in great areas. Like honestly, I feel a lot safer in a parking garage that has security cameras and is patrolled by security officers than I would in like Desert Manor or something where you know, like,
Right.
I bet I'm safer at where I am than you are.
Yeah, you can choose to place yourself in the ghetto, or you could go drive to a place that's patrolled by security guards.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Quickly about the writing. Do you is that I don't know. Do you write for Poker News regularly, or was this just kind of you knew someone there who was like, hey, you know, tell about your experiences? Was this kind of like a one-time deal, or?
Yeah. So like the Poker News started this thing this year called the PN blog, and it's sort of like BuzzFeed has, to where like not everyone who writes for BuzzFeed are employees of them, but they just have different writers around the country who submit articles, and then they choose a sampling from there. So they started this section of the website to where you can, if you write about something poker related and they like it, then they'll publish it and put it on the website. So I wrote one about moving to Vegas, and I heard them mention it on their podcast, and so went on the website, wrote an article about it, and then submitted it, and then the next day they published it. I was like, oh wow. And so like that was pretty cool. And then then a few months later, then wrote one about choosing to live out of my car, and they published that one as well. And both of those articles have gotten like quite a bit of attention as far as like the PN blog goes. Like those have definitely been like the two most popular articles of that section of the website.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, you write very well, by the way.
You do.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's very funny and easy to read, and
pulls you in right away with the tapping on the window.
Yeah, grammar was or English was definitely my favorite subject in school, and my mom's a writer full time, so yeah, definitely I think got some things from her, and so yeah, I think in 2018 that's definitely one of my goals is to write a little bit more. I don't make any money from writing right now. But yeah, like I know Carlos got into some writing, and then like that's become like a little bit bigger part of his life. So I might continue to follow the Carlos road in
right.
poker, and definitely I think I want to do a little bit more writing as it goes on.
You should. You're good at it.
Speaking of your mom. Here's the old guy ask the questions. What does she think about your? Because all us poker players understand, and because we can tell right away you're like a winning player. This is, things are going to go well eventually. But you are a guy who's sleeping in a Prius with a gun under his seat. It kind of sounds like living on the edge to most people not in the community. How does your mother think about that? Or she doesn't know about the gun, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Neither my mom or my dad are particularly thrilled at all at this. They were definitely really excited when I was in aviation, and they're really proud of me for that, and definitely 100% behind this. And then so
they didn't get a bumper sticker on the car that says
my son is a professional poker player in Las Vegas.
No, that's it's kind of So
my son has a Prius with the Glock 9 under the seat. The little license plate frame.
My son was player of the month at Caesar's Palace.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? One thing you said was that and one thing I admire for sure is, and this is something for the listeners to really listen into, is that you're doing what you love. And I heard a speech by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I don't know how accurate this stat is, but, talking with people, I think it's pretty accurate. He said that 75% of people are not doing the job that they really want to do, and I see that a lot. Yesterday, I was at work, and one of the EMTs on the ambulance, he was telling me that he was trying to get into being a fireman, and he'd been testing, and that, he was thinking of giving up and going for being a nurse, or he mentioned some other career that, kind of had a relation to the fire service, but not really. And I asked him straight up, I said, well, what do you really want to do? And he's like, well, I want to be a fireman. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, do that. I mean, like, what are you going to do? Go be miserable for 30 years being a nurse when it's not what you want to do? Like, why are you stopping? And he's like, well, I just can't seem to pass the test. And I'm like, dude, I took 45 before I finally got hired. Like, just if the guy that never stops, he eventually gets there. You know what I mean? You just don't quit. And, you're doing that. And, you like playing poker, obviously, so much so that, you quit the aviation school and, a very successful career to do what you love. And that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. I definitely some sort of mindset to where you should definitely do what you love. And I mean, I think like, especially in the Western culture that we have here in America, like it seems to me like you're told what the American dream is, and so the American dream is to do really well in high school and then get some scholarships and go to college and then get like a good job in college to where you major in something good and that's in high demand, and then you get a job out of there. And, it could be just get something you're good at. It doesn't have to be like your passion, but get something you're good at and that's in a safe industry and it's not going anywhere. And then grind that out for 20 or 30 years. And then after that, then you can retire and then you can have fun and then you can enjoy your life. And
yeah, but meanwhile, during those 30 years, you're just miserable. Like,
right.
That sounds like a great time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know that, 75% of my life is over. I can finally have fun.
Now I can finally have fun. But you're too damn old to enjoy it.
Definitely sounding like following the Carlos blueprint. I'm picturing. I've just had for some reason an image of him and Carlos walking down the Vegas Strip, each like eating cotton candy, just smiling, nodding, a moment of communion. They understand what's important.
Yeah, picking up casino comps as they walk by.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I don't know if I can ever go back to having a real job here, Steve.
Yeah.
Like just once you get to be your own boss and play a game for a living, everything else just seems like a big steaming pile of horse shit. I think, I don't know, but maybe that's a little too.
Yeah,
I think you'll be
there's-
definitely. Do you have any other than to move? Other than right now, I guess you're just concentrating on replenishing your bankroll.
Right.
You're kind of in survival 101 mode here. You can't really.
Yeah.
It's not about taking you. It's not about taking your shots. It's about
Yes. It's about slowly building back. So as far as like moving forward, I was faced with not even like $3,000 like isn't even like a roll for like 1-2, honestly.
You gotta run good to run
right. You can't you can't like take any type of downswing whatsoever. So I was so I was thinking about a few different options that I could have as far as either like playing micro stakes online or being backed or going back to work and just putting back away a little bit of money before I could go back to work again. And so I've still been playing a little bit this past month. It's been going okay. And then I actually had someone reach out to me from 2+2 who works in the aviation industry, and he told me about a job opening in his company that, as far as like going back to work, and as awful as that sounds, like this sounds like about as an ideal situation as I could ask for. He works on instrument landing systems for installing on those on airports around the country, around the world. They don't use American made products, so the FAA won't let them operate in the U.S. But yeah, they it takes about 3 weeks to do that, and so they install those, and then so then your plane ticket is covered to the country that you're working in. Room and board isn't, but then your daily rate is like kind of absurd. It's like a little under $800 a day. So and then you're not required to keep working with, like, each contract is a separate contract, and you're not required to like keep working with this company if you don't want to. So like every 3 weeks, then you're off until you want to work again. So like that seems like, if I can end up getting this job, like that seems like a pretty ideal situation to like go to work for 3 weeks and make like several thousand to replenish that way.
And then maybe just it's not like you could just say I'll be available in 2 months from now.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, good luck with that.
Good luck
I'm really
with
having trouble moving beyond his account being stolen. I'm sorry. It's so I'll be angry for years over Steve's wife stealing 90,000. Never mind.
It's a little over 100, but we
it was a little over 100. Who's caring? I mean, Bitcoin goes down 2%, and I start having panic attacks. So, anyways, but it's great, man, that you're adjusting and just going forward here. You got the Steve mentality. Nothing's going to stop you, so that's great.
I definitely think you're. I mean, obviously, we all know that like mental fortitude is definitely a big part of poker. And when I was doing Punta Cana, I met Corey Whalen there.
Think Big.
Yeah. So
I've been trying to get that guy on this podcast for like 4 years. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. Just give me a call. Every time I call him, he's like, oh, how about next month? God damn it, dude, come on.
So I met him. I already knew what Think Pink was, we met him and got to hang out a little bit with him down in Punta Cana, and both of us busted on day one. And so it was day two, and we were like just in the pool playing volleyball. and he was like the happiest person I'd ever seen to not be playing a day two. He was just like having a blast, completely endorsed, like in the moment. And he's like, yeah, dude, you can't think about like not playing day two. Like, who cares if it's a big tournament? Like, look around, you're on the beach at an all-inclusive resort. Like, how bad is your life right now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like definitely like just, you know, it's like, okay, well, this sucks, but like crying about it is not going to make my life better. So gotta move on and yeah.
I love that guy's attitude. He's always
Yeah,
got a positive
for sure.
outlook, and he's just a stand-up guy. Yeah,
Definitely.
he's cool. He's cool. Right on.
Do we have any hands to discuss, Steve? Maybe, or do we have a couple cash hands? Or
I've got a tournament hand. This one's from America's Card Room. First, I'm going to tell you guys about Tournament Poker Edge. The strategy section is brought to you by TPE. You play tournaments. I play tournaments. Mike and Andrew play tournaments. Let's get better at these things we call tournaments, people. You got thousands of videos on Tournament Poker Edge. They even got some free videos that you can check out. Go through the free videos. Check them out. There's hours of them. When you join the club, you'll get access to over 2,000. You can learn how to play from the button, playing from the blinds, hand history reviews, how to set up your HUD using Bitcoin on American sites, and of course, tournament poker theory and strategy. When you join, use the code HUP month, HUP quarter, or HUP year, depending on how long you want to sign up. I just do the annual one every time. I have it on auto pay. I'm not going to stop watching the videos, so why not just sign up and get the cheapest one available? Save yourself some cash, people. SYSC. Study and learn with other people that are just like us. It'll be the best thing you've ever done for your tournament game. I guarantee it. Okay. This one's from ACR. This was a...
we ask Andrew if he'll help us do a little strategy here.
Oh, yeah. Andrew, do you want to talk a strategy yet? Maybe we should have done that first.
No way, I'm gone. Bye, guys.
Well, just
Yeah.
just as a courtesy, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Sounds
Thank you,
fun.
Mike.
Yeah.
That's why we both do this.
Yeah, sure. Let's get into it.
Okay. All right.
Our personal assistants we're off this week for the Christmas holidays, so we're not on our A game and for preparation. You know.
Right. That was it.
Right on. Okay, this is a 8-max tournament. We got 8 players at the table. It's a $44 buy-in on America's Card Room. And we're at the beginning stages of the tournament. Blinds are 20-40. Every player has about 5K in chips. And we're in the big blind. Okay, so we get 3 folds. And then the hijack opens to 80, so he min raises it. And then the button calls, the small blind calls, and we're in the big blind with 10-4 offsuit. So we got 280 in the pot, and it's 40 for us to call. The original opener, he's after 130 hands, after 86 hands, he's at 53.29, and his 3-bet is 9.7. So this guy's, he's playing more than half of the hands so far, and he's raising about a third of them and 3-betting almost 10%. The button calls, we only got 20 hands on him, so I'll kind of leave him out. And then the small blind, he's a 46.19. 9.4 after about 90 hands, like the opener.
What the fuck is going on with this table here, Steve?
It's a great site to play on.
Sounds like I need to play more $44 tournaments.
Yeah. So okay. So it's 40 for us to call. There's 280 in the pot. We can call and close the action. We're completing here with like any 2, right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. And yeah, even though we block 10s and 4s, it's probably not a good 3-bet candidate. So I like completing.
Okay. You concur, Mike?
I'm sorry. What was your hand again?
10-4
10-4 offsuit.
10-4 offsuit. Sure, call, I guess.
Okay, we're getting 7-1.
Anything less than 2 pair, I'm done with it, I think. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, we complete, and then the flop. Okay, so we've got 10 of spades, 4 of hearts, four-handed. 10 of spades, 4 of hearts. The flop is 10 of hearts, 6 of spades, 3 of spades.
Okay.
Okay. Small blind checks. And the action's on us. There's 320 in the pot. Effective stacks are basically 5K. So our stack to pot ratio is well over 10. What is it? 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you guys doing here? We got top pair, horrible kicker, and a weak backdoor flush draw.
I like. I think I like this 4 ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a decent check, like check call candidate. I think maybe 3 ways or heads up. We could maybe sometimes lead out, but I mean this is a pretty good flop for the blinds range. We're gonna like hit this flop like a decent amount of time with some different random cards. So yeah, I mean if we lead out and get called, we don't really. I don't see too much information that we gain from the pre-flop raiser, and then if obviously we get raised, we don't really like our situation either. So I think checking's fine here.
Okay. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, whatever you go from here, it's gonna be hard to fold just because of the way these other guys play. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So if you donk lead, it seems to be really bad to donk lead and then fold top pair.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes people's HUD stats don't tell you how they're playing necessarily. I wouldn't mind a check raise here, actually. Again, if you check raise and then fold to a 3-bet, but I definitely think their bet when check 2 is probably going to be pretty high with those numbers.
Right.
And then if you just call, you risk getting drawn out on, obviously, and you might not know where you stand for the streets.
Yeah.
So this is something I've tried to get into, which I know is kind of a leak, where I see people in the cash games, like I'm used to thinking the check raise is pretty polarized. It's either like a made hand or like gutter ball with backdoor flush or whatever. A set. And, I just never do that with 1 pair. And maybe I'm missing some value there. Maybe I'd actually like to discuss this hand as a cash hand afterwards, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
To pretend it was a cash game and pretend we're 200 big blinds deep. I'm probably not even, first of all, calling in a cash game. I don't know if you, but okay, Steve, obviously check fold is the only option we aren't going to consider. But all I know here is with this crew, you're probably going to end up maybe having to put a lot of chips in the pot here. Okay. Because I'll again, I don't know. I'd have to play with them, but check calling flop, obviously, and then I would need 2 overcards to fold probably. The jack comes on the turn. I'm checking to see what happens. Okay, a king comes on the river. I'm check calling the turn almost on most turns, and then the river. Okay, I'll get away if it's a bad card, kind of thing. But maybe that's exploitive, thinking right away that you got to be so sticky with it. But they're so wide. They're so wide. Top pair is a huge hand. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think. And you mentioned a check raise, and I think I was sort of forgetting just how crazy their HUD stats were to begin the hand. But yeah, I don't. As far as like considering a check raise, I don't mind that all that often, because like you said, I think their bet frequency is going to be really high on this flop when check 2, and I mean, sure they can 3-bet some air, but they're going to be c-betting way more air than 3-betting air, and sure. It's like a decent hand to put it into our a check raise range, and obviously then like if we're getting called, then probably just we you win, like unless we improve. Like.
Yeah.
Also, the backdoor straight, so
Right, yeah.
you don't your hand can get stronger on the turn without get hitting two pair too.
Yeah. Backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw.
Okay. I don't really look at this as much as a backdoor flush draw as I do a blocker to the flush. We have a 10 of spades, so there's the jack, queen, king, and ace out there, and there's 3 opponents. If we make a flush here, I am not comfortable.
Yeah.
But okay, I check as well. I figure leading out doesn't really. Maybe if we had a 6 or something here, well, I don't know. And if 4 people heads up, I'm leading.
How many big blinds did you have to start the hand?
About
122.
125. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say like late game stuff. It's totally different. If I'm 35 bigs, I'm check folding here a fair amount, frankly. I just said check folding is the one option we can't have, but the more I think about it.
Well, if you're that short, then yeah, I think so too. I wouldn't want to make my stand here with.
I don't know, Steve. But if somebody c-bets and somebody calls here, folding is not horrible.
Yeah,
I don't think if you check here and somebody bets and then somebody calls, just because it's just going to be very hard to play on the turn. Anyway, Steve, what did you decide to do?
Okay, so with the 10 of spades, 4 of hearts, the board is 10 of hearts, 6 of spades, 3 of spades. So we got top pair, horrible kicker, backdoor straight, backdoor quote unquote flush draw with the 10 of spades. We check, and the original opener, he checks. And then the button, after 21 hands, he's at 38-19. He bets pot. So into 320, he bets 320. Small blind folds, and it's on hero. I'll talk at once.
So yeah, these this is definitely such an definitely seems to be more of an ACR than I see on other sides of betting pot, even like multi-way. Just people just like to bet pot, even when there wasn't even a lot of action pre-flop. But yeah, and you said we only had like 20 hands on the button, right? Not a lot of history with him.
No, at 38-19 after 21 hands, it tells you that they're either running a string of cards or they like to play.
Well, in most situations here, we can kind of I don't want to narrow his range, but this is how you could say, well, he's probably going to raise tens quite a bit. And he's got no 2 pair combos in his range, but this guy's so wide, he's probably calling the button with any 2. You know what I mean? So we can't eliminate 5-4 off out of his range. I don't know. I still kind of like the raise here. I guess raise folding is just horrible because he can shove a draw on us. Yeah, I guess we can't raise. I guess we can't check raise fold here. Maybe that's just too exploitive. I guess just call.
Yeah. It's it's not. Yeah, it's not like sometimes, like especially with guys. Like the hand history isn't that what big a sample, but yeah, sometimes with guys that are just running crazy numbers, sometimes you just like from pre-flop you kind of resign yourself. Okay, if I get it in the hand, then I just have to
I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah, like so yeah, I think
just looking ahead to how we'll play. Just looking ahead to how we'll play the turn.
Yeah.
Do we say right? Well, you know what? It's a value hand, but if a spade comes on the turn, I'm check raising, or I'm going to lead pot, or are we planning? If we're calling here, what are we thinking about the turn? How we're going to play depending on how that turns out, or are we just calling and just evaluating kind of mindset?
Yeah.
Top pair.
Yeah, I like calling. I really don't mind leading the spade turn with holding the 10 of spades. There are like other combos in his betting range that are other than flush draws that are he's gonna have top pair sometimes. He's gonna have middle pair sometimes. It's just betting to see if it's good. It's like sometimes like random overs. Like maybe like queen jack with like the queen of spades or something. So yeah, like I have like all sorts of stuff here that doesn't have to necessarily be top pair or a flush draw. So I think leading a spade turn and then leading a decent amount of rivers if called is a decent strategy. And then yeah, if it's on a non-spade turn, I mean, it sort of depends on what it is, I guess. Like
Right. Okay, Stevie, what'd you do?
Okay, so you guys are in team call?
yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Sure.
that's gonna be a little bit better than check raise and like jams or like 3-bets us on the flop and just obviously can't call.
Yeah, okay. I think so too. That's reviewing this, that's what I thought as well. And in the moment, I think what happened was as soon as I flopped this, I got in my head, I'm like, check raise. And and I didn't bother to stop and like run through the logic here that it's not the original opener that's doing this, that all those things. And I did the check raise. I clicked it back. And so I made it 640. And
That I don't like. You gotta make them think right away.
Yeah.
You gotta make them think away that you're playing for stacks here.
right? And anyways, the original opener folds, and then so does the better. And I was like, I think at the time I thought like I got two guys behind me. Their ranges are like all over cards. I guess it's not that bad taking it down right now, but this is a call. And
No, I check raise was my first instinct, although I can't. Yeah, I just think you got the best hand a lot, and the turns are difficult. And just because these guys they're going to tell the truth a lot. I think there on those hands. Just because they're super active, a lot of these guys who are super active and aggressive and raising and 3-betting so much are going to win a lot of easy pots. So if they're at all respectable, when somebody really offers resistance, they can kind of afford just to give up.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean, I see your argument though, because like I said, especially with the flush draw out there, maybe that makes this move not quite as good because your other guy can put you on that flush draw and outplay you in position.
yeah. I was thinking one of them. They're between the small blind check, so I'm kind of eliminating him from the hand maybe 80% of the time, maybe even more than that. And then with two guys left behind me, a hijack and a button call, I thought between the two of them, there's probably 2.5 or 3 overcards between them on average. And, any ace, king, queen, or jack is not good. And I don't know. I threw in the min click, and then they both folded. So the button probably didn't have anything. Maybe he had a 3 or a 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, in a cash game, are you looking at that pre-flop call as a leak?
Yeah, I'm not calling 10-4 off out of the big in the cash game. I don't think that's too good.
I mean, even if there's 8 players in the pot, are you calling? I mean, I think I'm still.
I mean, yeah, it's sort of like when I have like a Limpton, when there's like a Limpton pot and I have like the same hand, I could have like the same hand, like 10-4 off. I'm like, okay, I call it 2-pair mining, like you said, like okay, we got to flop the world here to make us actually go with the hand.
But like I said, you're just if you're saying I want to flop 2-pair, which only happens 2% of the time. I think it's 1 out of 50. Then yeah, you're never realizing whatever they say your equity is because you're rarely, especially in a multi-way pot, going to see turns and rivers. But
right, yeah.
What about this spot? So you're getting 7-1. The average player opens cutoff, button calls, small blind calls. It's on you, getting 7-1. Okay, 10-4 off. You're folding. You're calling here with 10-9, 10-8, 10-7 offsuit, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, 10-6 offsuit.
Yeah, sure.
10-5.
Probably
Can't flop a straight with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I would be folding 10-6 off and below and calling 10-7 off and above, but you're calling 10-6 and folding 10-5?
I think so, or maybe like 10-6 suited. And then 10-6 suited plus, and then 10. Maybe, yeah, I guess like 10-6 off isn't that bad. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely
maybe
not 10-4.
this is a
though.
leak on me then. I would be calling 10-deuce suited and above. So any
Okay.
suited. Two loose?
Yeah, as far as like 10, as far as going to suited, probably 10 deuce through 10-5 suited. I probably wouldn't be calling. I don't know if that's a leak on my part or not, but yeah, probably 10 deuce to the.
Well, you make more an hour at 2-3 and 1-3 than I do, so I'm gonna go with your.
Well, I mean, like 1, 2, and 3. Like most of it isn't. Even though like I do like quite a bit of amount of studying as far as GTO and talk some like fairly in-depth strategy with some players. Like for the most part, when you're playing against recreational players, like for the most part. I summed it. I was talking about this to one of my friends, and I was like 90% of 1, 2, and 3 is mostly just like getting the max value from your premium hands and then giving people bad prices on their draws. Like that's mostly what you're doing. I mean, obviously, there's still like a lot more that goes into it, into being a winning player and being able to be how much the rake affects you and tips and everything like that.
Yeah, but those two things are 55% of your game.
It's pretty big things to know when to get stacks in and give people bad prices on draws.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask? These aren't really fascinating hands, but this is kind of since I actually just pulled my phone out because I was going to ask somebody else about these spots, but I feel I'm making leaks with just putting money in the pot pre-flop where I'm just hoping to hit a flop. You know what I mean? Anytime I'm doing that, I feel like I'm kind of playing bad. Like today, this is just a spot where it's like, well, you can't fold. This is a pretty hand, but I don't know if this call is profitable. I play 5-5, and usually most hands I'm starting off 300 big blinds effective, so that radically changes the pre-flop ranges versus what I guess if you're playing a lot of 150 and 200 big blind poker. But
sure,
under the gun makes it 20. Under the gun 2 makes it 20, and I am in the cutoff with ace-8 of diamonds.
Yeah, I don't mind flatting a lot of most suited aces. Something like ace-8 off. Probably wouldn't be calling ace-8 off. Would probably be folding or 3-betting. Sort of hands like whereas like sort of like goes into like the same mindset I have with like king queen suited. I don't mind flatting. King queen off, I'm more inclined to 3-bet even in position. So like ace-8 suited, I think it works fine as a call.
Okay, I was thinking maybe this is a spot where I'm calling, reflexively, automatically, but maybe this is a fold because there's just a lot of, there's like 5 or 6 of these kind of, decent hands that I'm calling versus, EP middle position opens. But to break even with them, I got to hit it a fair amount. But I don't know. It's hard to, I squeeze and 3-bet quite a bit, so I can't choose every spot. But,
sure.
I was thinking I did call and missed the flop and just gave up and lost my $20 there. But I thought maybe afterwards, I'm like, is this a 3-bet or fold spot? And I thought folding would be better than 3-betting for sure. So, but ace-8, any suited ace is is pretty nice.
Yeah, I think like you said, 300 big blinds deep, and then it's 5-5, so it's like it's even better than big blinds because the small blind is big blind. And where you're in the cutoff or hijack?
I'm in the cutoff, and
Yeah.
there's not if there was somebody who could squeeze behind, I think it'd be a pretty bad call. But the three guys to my left are they're only going to squeeze with like jacks plus pretty much, so you don't have to.
Right. Yeah. So you're. Yeah. And so you have like a decent. Yeah. So you have a decent suited ace. You're really deep. You're not guaranteed to be in position, but you have a decent chance of being in position. So that's all those are pretty good things, I think, to make this a flat. And yeah, like I said, like if I'm sitting like at 1-2 and somebody opens to like $12 and I'm on the cutoff and we're playing like 150 effective, then yeah, probably not.
Right. Okay. So, but this is, I've decided, I was very proud of myself, was going to be my new study technique, is just to write down all these pre-flop decisions that are kind of close. Like, is this profitable or is it not profitable? Because, as the hand goes on, I'm going to be fairly confident I'm going to be playing later streets okay. But if it's not a profitable call, as they say, then you're just, there's nothing you can really do to make up for it, I don't think. But let me ask you another one here.
Yep.
Low jack makes it, who only has $650, makes it 25. The cutoff, who has just over $300, makes it 25. There was for some, these were the only two short stacks at the table.
Okay.
And I have King 10 of hearts in the small blind.
Yeah, that's yeah. This is actually this is a good one. This is a pretty interesting spot.
What'd you say?
It flopped so well.
What did they both have? 600?
One of them's got like 650 and one has like 320 is what I wrote down here. If they're deeper, I think I 3-bet sometimes and flat sometimes, never fold, obviously. I just thought the flatting made it. I thought it was flatting was the way to go, but afterwards I'm like, I go heads up here, and yeah, I mean I never know what I'm doing here, but I thought this was a pretty. I mean, flatting's not wrong here, obviously.
Yeah. It's I don't think it'd be too bad. I don't think it's too bad.
But you got it. But now,
can be
again, this is a spot
kind of
now.
Tricky. Yeah, go ahead.
But now I'm in a spot now where I'm pretty much going to have to hit the flop, to win most often here. Unless, I could check raise with a gutter ball. Obviously, there's a lot of other ways to go.
Yeah,
but I feel like the other two players here these are casual players, kind of face up.
Mm-hmm.
I can 3-bet and fold to a jam without having to think twice about it. And then I can also 3-bet and c-bet, and the c-bet's going to work so frequently. So, again, I don't know. It's such a pretty hand. It's usually those suited broadways from this. They always say anytime you flat from the small blind, it's bad. But I always feel like the suited broadways are like always the exception to that rule. I just decided to flat. But again, I don't know if that's the most profitable play there. I think I'd like a flat. I don't know if I like it more or less if we were deeper. If we were all 300 big blinds effective, do you think you'd be more likely to 3-bet there or less likely?
I think. Given sort of depends on your image and who opened, sure. But. Deeper. I think it's also okay just to flat. Like I think some players have questions about hands sort of like this, like King 10 and or Queen 10 off or on the button should they call and they're worried about like or a hand like I mean, some players even question like ace jack and stuff because like, oh well, they can be dominated by ace king and all this stuff. I'm like, well, okay, so you already know that in the back of your mind, like, okay, you have a decent hand that has some equity and can hit some flops, but you also know that it can be dominated a decent amount of the time, and you already know that, so you're not going to be putting all your money here in on the flop on like a king high board. So just know that in the back of your mind and then proceed accordingly. Like more than likely you can probably play post flop better than they can, so use that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
in this
just
spot,
results oriented.
I would go flat, then fold, then 3-bet. If it was offsuit,
You would rather? Did you say you'd rather fold than 3-bet there?
I think I'd rather fold than 3-bet.
Yeah.
Is that a mistake?
I think folding is the worst of the three options personally with that hand against. But I don't. Yeah.
Just because I mean, one guy's 60 bigs effective, the other guy's 100 and something. I don't know. It feels like, you know, you're gonna kind of know when there's like straight possibilities. It's a 2-gapper. When you make top pair, you don't have the best kicker.
The 10 is kind of irrelevant from like a blocker aspect of it,
right?
Yeah. So like, I mean, I see what you mean there, and then like especially like the guy who's only like 60 bigs deep, like you can still 3-bet, get called by him, and then obviously you're gonna be c-betting a ton.
Yeah,
and then when he
shoves,
and then
yeah,
right,
call,
like,
it's like that's the one that's kind of sticking me. If they both had like 650, then I think I'd be more inclined to put the 3-bet before the fold, but because that one guy's so short, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's what I was sort of working through.
Yeah. Again, I don't know. It's just interesting, but like I keep. We've had a guy on here a couple times who's a cash game crusher, Joe LaPinta.
Yeah.
And I was asking about his studying, and he's like, the point of studying is to make it so when you play poker, you have as few decisions as possible to make.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already know what you're going to do.
It's instinct.
So at least 50% of the hands I have pre-flop. I'm like, I've got 3 options here. How lovely. So like here, I just think like Joe would, not that we're trying to get rid of Andrew and call Joe up, but he would have a pretty swift and definitive answer of what.
Sure.
I don't know if, like I said, if it's a GTO, because if you're 3-betting here, that maybe you're 3-betting too much. I don't know, because now not only do you have jacks plus in your range, but if you got suited Broadway and some ace, again, especially if you're playing 1-3 and you're not, like you said, the goal is to like preserve your stack and just get paid on your big hands, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
but anyways, there's probably a answer here that I just don't know, but and I also played it pretty passively. The flop was Queen Jack 10 with 1 heart. It seems like a bonanza, but I checked, and the original raiser bet 55, so almost a full pot bet, and the other guy called. So I just folded because neither of these guys is folding a queen, and obviously if it's a 4-liner to the straight and I hit it, I'm probably not getting paid anyways. If for some reason they don't have it, so I thought I like my post flop fold, but. Especially, again, like the other guy only has $200-something. So if I check raise, he might even say F it and go with a jack. I'm not even sure if I can get him to fold a jack. But I don't know, Steve, just talking about hourly. Andrew was giving his hourly, like, I'm giving my goals for next year. I'd like to be a guy who makes 10 big blinds an hour. And I feel like that's the kind of hand where I need to know the answer a little more.
I don't know. I mean, like, okay, unless my math is off here, we got 80 in the pot going to the flop. You check on the flop. He leads out 55. The other guy calls 55. Now we got 190 in the pot, and it's 55 for you to call. That's almost 4-1. You got 4 aces. You got which will give you the nuts. You got 4 nines, which will give you a straight. And you've got 8 hearts. Not counting the nine.
ace is the ace quite often is just going to be a chop for me.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. King, queen, king, jack. I mean, you do block that, but
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
I don't know. It's again, Steve. Like I say, I don't know too often. But anyways, it's again, Steve. Looking ahead in our podcast till 2018 or whatever the hell year we are, or 2027, Steve. If me and you are still connected to the hip, then I'm giving the a glimpse of what my new studying is just to write down some of these pre-flop situations and hopefully pester people into what do they think the best option is. And I'll just do one more real quick, Steve. And $1,500 effective here. A guy who's super ridiculously active from the hijack raises. I mean, I don't know, super ridiculous. He just loves to see hands. You know, he's going to open middle position like every hand. I mean, late position every hand. He raises to 20, and I have ace 3 off on the button.
Okay. And you're like really deep here, right?
Yeah, 300 big
bigs,
blinds.
Yeah. On the button with ace 3. I don't like folding. I think it works a little bit better if he's super active and he just likes to play a lot of hands. I don't know. I guess my question, if I was going to 3-bet, is how much fold equity do you think we generate on a 3-bet, and how much do you think he folds?
Well, that's the thing against this guy. He's going to fold probably about 15 to 20%, maybe. So basically, now you're inflating the pot.
Wait. He's calling 15 to 20%, or he's folding 15 to 20%?
He's folding 15 to 20%.
Oh, okay. So he's almost always calling.
Again, I guess this would be go to GTO strategy, which I don't even know, which would be, yes, sometimes you 3-bet probably here. You 3-bet a few combinations of the ace rag, but I think these are spots where I'm automatically reflexively just like, oh, I got the blocker, I got the position, I'm raising, and I think I'm very unbalanced because of that. But against this guy too, I don't know if you have. Yeah, I don't know when there's guys who are just playing every hand and are just ready to blast off. Maybe this doesn't describe this guy, but when you know that kind of player.
Sure.
Do you want to, I was having this discussion the other day. It's like, well, I'm usually trying to isolate them, but it's just getting money in the pot against a guy who's maybe it's just trying to see flops cheap should be more the goal.
Right.
Well, if you call here, how often are either the small blind or big blind calling?
I don't know. Pretty fairly,
Fairly often, right?
Probably at least 50% of the time, one of them is going to be in there.
Yeah.
I just fold here. I guess I don't know if I was really thinking of balance, but it's it's first of all, ace 3 off. It just feels like the flat is bad. Because the ace hits, they always think you have an ace. What are you going to do? You're going to win a big pot. So if it was Jack 7 suited, I'm calling here in a second.
Sure.
But I thought this was like a 3-better fold spot. I don't know. It struck me as that. Suited ace, obviously, it's different. Again, Mike S 2.0 2018. I want to know the answer to this spot.
I like the 3-bet. When you mentioned this, I was like, oh, there's a perfect 3-bet spot, because when you 3-bet here, I think the blinds are folding very often. And, it's like Alex Fitzgerald said. He said, there's 4 things you want to do when you're playing poker. And one is have position. The other one's big pots, superior hands, and then heads up. And you can satisfy all 4 of those here. I think that ace 3 off is going to be way ahead of his range. So you got a superior hand. more than likely you're going to get heads up. You
Right.
build a
Well, the
pot
guy's
with a
very
superior
sticky,
hand.
though. You could be, if you just, in these spots, like I said, the lower stakes, I think the goal is to like preserve your stack. I mean, I bluff a lot and with some success, but I'm just saying this isn't like a kind of hand you want to like 3-bet and then try to double barrel on a good turn card against a guy who doesn't even care what the turn cards are.
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think you're putting the cart before the horse. Just a 3-bet here, get heads up, and then go to your flop. Except that his range is going to be really wide.
Right.
Because he's calling 80%, like you said. And just go from there. You got position. You got an ace.
Yeah, I don't think the rebet's a mistake, but I just like,
Yeah. I don't think so either. Especially with like, I think there's like a decent amount to be said for like ace 3 off versus like ace 6 off, which can't make it straight.
Ace 6
so
off, I'd be folding.
right, yeah. So like, I think there's a more of a candidacy for ace 3.
Okay,
For the
that's
wheel.
true.
Yeah.
But I just
what
thought-
is your guys' okay? If you're going to 3-bet here, what's your sizing? I think if he's calling 80% of the time, tell me if this logic is right or not. If he's calling 80% of the time, and we figure that the buttons, the blinds, if we just call here, one or both of them is coming along 50% of the time. I kind of like doing like 45, just because we can kind of keep the pot a little bit smaller. The blinds are still probably going to fold almost as often if we do 45 as opposed to like 55 or 60. And the hijack is almost always calling. If he 3-bets, it's an easy fold.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, what would that be?
Four.
That'd be a 4-bet, yeah. I'm losing track here. I like 45. What do you guys think of that? Would you go bigger?
Yeah, I don't mind that sizing. Sort of for the reasons that you said, like we're still gonna get heads up. I think the same amount of time. And we're not building a huge pot with a non-premium hand, and still like accomplishes like all the good things of 3-bet without like bloating the pot. And like I said, we're 300 bigs deep, so we're still like pretty comfortable here. And then like it sort of depends on like the table too, to where then like maybe if he's calling 80% regardless, then maybe if he's just gonna be kind of oblivious to our 3-bet sizes, then we can 3-bet small with ace 3, and then we can 3-bet big with ace king, and they're not gonna really pick up on the difference. But yeah, I think a smaller sizing here is if it's gonna accomplish the same amount of stuff. I think that makes a candidate for going smaller as opposed to larger here.
Would this guy notice,
obviously,
Mikey, if you're raising bigger with big hands and less with less than premium? Is he that much of a wreck that he wouldn't pick up on that? Or
No, this guy's actually good at poker. He just plays. He just likes
plays
to
a
play.
lot.
He's also
Okay.
just likes to gamble and have fun.
Okay.
But no,
So
if
you
he
kinda
bets
gotta balance your
against,
sizing.
against him, it's I think it increases the chance of 4-betting. First of all, if you bet small, which mean
okay.
I guess would be.
maybe
But
55 then.
yeah, it's villain dependent. I don't know about this spot, but if
Sure.
there's guys who don't pay attention to size but are very flop dependent, then obviously you want to just 3-bet big, like make it 80, and then I got to see a flop with my king 10 suited or whatever it is, queen jack, and then when they miss, they're just folding so often, you're just printing money there. So my sizing keeps getting bigger in cash games the more I play. I think just from watching some of it used to be like someone limp, 5-5-5. I made it like 40, and now it's almost always 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just my player pool or whatever, but people, I think you got like 20. Someone made it 25, and someone else make it 25, and I'm squeezing. It used to be like 100, maybe 125, and now it's like 150. Maybe I'm betting too much in those spots, but yeah, I don't know. I always lean towards I like bigger sizing. Pre-flop and then on flops, because you're just letting people know. Get ready to play for your stack here, buddy.
Yeah.
So here, maybe against this guy it doesn't work, but I like 75, and then other than those ace high flops.
Yeah.
Other than those ace high flops where you don't really want to bet too big, because if they have an ace, you're just wasting money if they have an ace because they're never folding, kind of thing. But I don't know. That's what I've been doing lately, anyway, Steve. My bet sizing's been. Of course, I've been losing a lot of money lately, but that's just luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of experimentation that goes on with your 3-bet sizes and with your squeeze sizes. And it sort of can just be table dependent, really, on just like, okay, like what works against this table, and like like a $20 3-bet might get through 80% of the time at one table, and then might get through like 0% of the time at another table, and so you just kind of sort of experiment and like, okay, well, you didn't fold to this last time, so you fold to this, and because like obviously you want some folds, generate some amount of folds on when you do that. So sort of like experiment and see what goes on from there. Sort of like you said, like I tend to like have like a sort of standard number that I go with from the start, and then like adjust accordingly if like everybody just calls the first time.
Sure. I think, Steve, if I remember this, I occasionally tell bad beat stories here, just for entertainment purpose.
Yeah.
But no, I think I remember. Yeah, there's one day where I'm pretty sure I told this hand, because it was at the time. It was like some guy was always like limping, and then I'd make it 20 and he'd call, and then 40 and he'd call, and then finally he limps, and I decided to make it like 120 with pocket kings. And he called off like a $400 stack. And then had like 6-9 suited and hit flop 2 pair, and or something like that. I mean, I was just what I mean. Like if I said all in, he'd be like, "Oh, I can't go all in with this crap." but he'll call a 25x raise with it just to evaluate later.
Yes. I'll call evaluate with my 9 high.
25% of my stack.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm definitely rooting for you to get shit turned around here.
Yeah. Do
Pretty,
you have any? Have you invested in any cryptocurrency? I heard you mention Bitcoin.
Yeah, I have a little bit in Bitcoin, not that much. And
Pretty
so
much
that's
just for moving on to the online sites and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So pretty much just that. And so just kind of been letting that sit and right now, and then been playing a little bit of cash on just like really game selecting lately, and then some of the one thing I do that I've been doing a little bit more of later on in the year that I think I'm pretty firmly say like no other cash game reg does this, is I've actually been frequently a few more of the daily tournaments here, not like the actual good ones of like Venetian and Aria that have like decent structures, but like some of the like the really bad like donkements of like the $85-$75 ones, like the run at like Bally's and Treasure Island and stuff.
Okay.
When I first got here, I played a couple of those, and then I was like, oh man, like, and I realized I was like, oh well, okay, like the rake is ridiculous on these, the structure is like ridiculous, pretty much almost just like double the blinds every level, and and then it just becomes like a crapshoot, and you don't really have that much of an edge. So I think that's what like most decent players think about them, and so they don't play them for that reason, just because like the rake is bad on them, and like the structure is really bad. And then I started playing a little bit. Some of them offer guarantees though, and like certain casinos and certain days, like you can look at Bravo and look at the clock and see like, okay, this one's like has like a decent chance of overlaying. And when I first started playing online, I started off in Sit and Goes, because I'd only played cash until I started playing online, and I was like, okay, well, I was looking up, like just Googled, like, okay, how to transition from cash game to tournaments, and everyone said sit and goes. So I was like, okay, well, I'll study sit and goes. So started playing just a ton of sit and goes, and developed a pretty good strategy in those. And then like if you're on like a Monday through, if you're on like a weekday during the day in a daily tournament, it's essentially turns into like a 1 or 2 table sit and go. Like not a lot of players are going to be like the Bally's 9 a.m. $75 800 guarantee doesn't attract like 30 people. They get like 1 table, maybe 2 tables.
Yeah,
and so so then it's like 90% just like pretty straightforward GTO super turbo sit and go strategy, and you're playing with players who really have no idea how to play off of 5 big blind stacks and stuff that you typically have. Like I was listening to Thinking Poker a couple weeks ago, and they were talking. I was talking with some Christian, I think, from Solve for Why, and they were talking about late regging tournaments and like late regging with 20 bigs, and whether or not that was a profitable thing to do. And Brocus was like, yeah, well, like, normally your skill edge isn't going to be all that great when you're regging with 20 bigs, but then again, if they're making a lot of mistakes off of 20 bigs, then your skill edge is going to be pretty huge. And so that's how it is. Like you're like, oh, like just like super quick example of the mistakes that people are making. We get to like we were both like 2 short-handed tables, and we moved to final table, and it was full 4-paid, so we're 9-handed 4-paid, and this middle position limps off of 9 bigs, and I have pocket 9s and the hijack with 13 big blinds, so I shove all in, and it folds back around to her, and she's like, she thinks for a while, and she's like, I don't know how you play, and she folds jacks face up.
Nice.
So,
I was going to say tens, but
yeah, so
I'm
yeah,
very familiar with that scenario.
so
Yeah, I would think the folding errors would be so consistent that I still don't know what a good ROI is for playing against that kind of players. Even if if it was 100% ROI, which is not unreasonable, then you're probably making 15 to 20 an hour playing those kind of tournaments.
Yeah. So it's been pretty decent, especially if you can target ones that have like overlays that have like and you can get one that has like a decent overlay that, you know, where it's like maybe like $100 buy-in, but then they have like a $900 overlay. Then that's usually pretty good.
Okay.
So that's been
rake, and then you're kind of free rolling.
Right. Yeah. Sure. So like that's been one thing that I've been doing as well, is playing like some of these awful tournaments that that like can be beaten as much as like people say that they can't. Like I think they can. Just takes like a different strategy. And then there's also like the 5% exploitative part of it, to where most of it's just like solid GTO strategy. Like you don't have any too many spots, but then there's also spots to where you can also fold like ace jack suited off of 10 bigs because this person's only shoving jacks plus or whatever.
Right.
So, so that's like one semi sort of interesting part of my play that not a lot of people do in Vegas. Or in general, I don't think a lot of pros make a habit of playing high rake, small stakes tourneys live.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like fun if nothing else, right? But
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, you make
How old are you, Andrew?
I'm 26.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Right on. That's awesome, man. I knew you'd make for a great interview when I met you. And I think I sent you a text months ago, and then you were going through your text and you missed it or something. I'm glad you hit me up.
Yeah. I was just combing through my phone the other day, and I was like, "Oh, Steve Barton, what is his number?" Oh, I remember I have his number.
Oh, yeah, that guy. With the show.
We're supposed to do something with him.
Yeah. Right on. Cool. Well, you got any other questions, Mikey?
no, Stevie, I'm ready to put my head on the pillow here. So we got
Right on. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Andrew. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was, I enjoyed it.
Right on. Right on.
Okay, man.
And-
good luck, and we'll keep us updated here.
Yes. We'd
Yeah,
like to have
right.
you back on. But, this is our 150th episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I feel like that's got some kind of
Yeah.
significance because it's even
I think
and
so.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some commemorative.
I almost killed myself after episode 6, so it's amazing how life is
It's
dragged on
amazing.
here.
We're still here.
This is where I inject, like, probably so did some of your listeners. But
Yes. Right on. Well, thank you for coming on. And
Absolutely,
you can
man.
Get your, you guys can get your 7-minute till poster by clicking on the link in the show notes and sign up for TPE. Use the codes HUP month, HUP quarter, and HUP year. Thank you for tuning in. And here is your weekly motivational speech.
The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. There's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A.
If you can see it here and you have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen.
You see what I'm saying? You want to be in a dominating point, okay? So what we got to do is we got to get you thinking. We got to get you thinking like the dominators think. How do they act? How does Warren Buffett act? What does Warren Buffett do with his time all the time? Those are the people I study today. I don't study the people that I went to school with, the teachers I went to school with. I don't even study my own family members, okay? I'm looking for people that are way up here that I can say, hey, what are they doing? Because they're doing it right. So I look to surround myself with people that can dominate, people that are certain, okay? People that know what they're doing, people that are in control.
You know, if you don't surround yourself with other dreamers, here's what I know. If 9 of your friends are broke, you're going to be the 10th one. That's it. If 7 of your friends smoke, you're going to be number 8. If you stay with that circle of friends, you've got to surround yourself with like-minded people. See, stop telling your big dreams to small-minded people.
If you don't go home tonight tossing and turning, truly making a decision where you're tired and jacked up at the same time, then I'm not talking to you. Weird things happen to people when you make a decision.
My mom wanted me to be a truck driver because that would mean I'd make $24,000 a year if I went to Truck Masters, and that would be twice what my father made. And she thought that would happen, but something inside of me said, I don't want to drive a truck. There's something else that matters more to me, and I decided I was not going to go for money instead of passion. And the rewards have been pretty amazingly better than being a truck driver. It's not bad being a truck driver, it's just not what I was after. And I look back, and one of the things that helped me was my original teacher, Jim Rohn, who's a personal development speaker. I went to hear when I was 17. He said something the first time I heard him, and he said, you know, it's really simple. If you want life to change, you got to change. If you want life to be better, you've got to get better. It's the only way it happens. And luck will show up for people and to leave them. But if you're constantly improving who you are and what you give, game over.